What's up, everybody? Thanks for joining us on another edition of Crowncast here in Florida. I'm Ben. This is Garrett, where we talk about a bunch of AV, stuff, and anything else that's on our mind at the time. Could go who knows where. We never know. But on episodes like this, we have special guests where we can chat about some cool things with other people. And today we have a special guest with us. Not here in the studio with us, but I believe he said he was in Nashville, which is also a cool place. Garrett, you want to do a little introduction of some sort?
Absolutely. We got Michael Keith Lewis here. He is an audio extravaganza. He is a system engineer. He does touring live audio, does studio audio, just engineer to the core. You can watch him on YouTube. He's got a bunch of videos. He does cool rig rundowns, stuff like that. He also is on a bunch of other podcasts, so we've seen him on some other stuff too. And he's the co-founder of Truck Packer. So this guy's been around. He's taken it, he's taking it seriously here. He's a touring guru, audio extravaganza, like I said. So welcome to the show, brother.
Hey man, thank you so much for having me.
Yo.
Awesome, dude. I want to hear. So are you a church guy?
So I started in the church world. I grew up, took piano lessons the first chunk of my life, and of course that just inherently meant that I ended up playing in the church because my mom kind of made me. She was like, "You got to get plugged into the church. You got to play." So I remember one of the first experiences I ever had behind a soundboard once when I was in youth, and I was trying to hear myself in my headphones or my in-ears or whatever it was, and I didn't know how to do it, and there was no one there that could, and I went back to the soundboard, and I just remember it was like an Allen and Heath mix wizard, and there was all these knobs and stuff, but that was my introduction into sound. And but yeah, I got hired by that church, and then went from that church to another church all while I was in high school, and then eventually moved to Dallas, which I was in Dallas for 10 years. And then if you're from the area or you know about Texas, Dallas is a huge mega church hub, and you guys as integrators, I'm sure, are aware of that scene as well. So there's just massive church scene. So I did a lot of hopping around there while kind of also doing some stuff in the club scene, and just making connections to some of the local musicians and made some friends and all that stuff like that.
Cool. So you actually play too. You're a musician.
I am. Yeah. I would use that term really loosely. I mean, I'm like a terrible musician, but I did go to school for music. I studied music education, which is really funny. When I tell people that, they're like, what? I wanted to be a choir teacher, which is crazy. But I say that loosely. I didn't want to be a choir teacher, but because I took piano lessons my whole life, I didn't feel like I was good enough to perform. But I was like, well, I did all this stuff for the first half of my life. Like, what? I need to do something with it, but which I didn't end up finishing that degree, but it did put me around some people that would kind of like kickstart my career and all that stuff like that. So happy to do it. But I studied at UNT for 2.5 years.
Right. Yeah, there's two different types of engineers, I'd say. There's the engineers that engineer because they can't play anything and they can't be in the band. You know those guys? And then I would say that there's the other group, like you, me, Ben too, that we were musicians first and found our way behind the desk. It's two different journeys. I respect them both. But I love, I find it, engineers that have that musical background is so important. I mean, you are essentially playing the biggest instrument in the room, the audio console. And to have that background in all the sounds that are coming through all those different sources and to fully understand them as a musician is extremely important.
Totally agree. I would equate, as musicians, you can probably understand this. I really equate learning how to EQ things or the tonality of things to ear training. I mean, whenever you're taking piano lessons and stuff, we have what's called oral training or oral skills, and so you learn to identify like what a perfect fifth sounds like or whatever, and those skills are synonymous with the things that you're learning to do with mixing. When you're listening to a mix, you're trying to figure out what is that frequency that's sticking out that's on top of the guitar. So there's definitely, even though I'm not really actively practicing piano or anything anymore, those definitely provided a foundation for the things that I do now. And I'm happy to have spent the time and put the time into that years past.
Yeah. Awesome. Yeah. So right now you're in Nashville, you said?
Yeah, I'm in Nashville. My wife and I moved in April, so 6 months ago. Really, really recently. We were in Dallas for 10 years before that, and Houston. I grew up in Houston before that. So Texas, born and raised, and I am one of those transplants. I'm sorry for any of the Nashville people that are listening to this. I am one of those people that moved here from out of the state.
Is the mecca of Christian music. You probably know that, and country music too. But so many
Yeah.
studios and stuff in that area. Where are you at? Where part of Nashville are you in?
So I'm in Midtown, which is basically downtown, just west of downtown.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm not in East. That's what
Yeah.
most people they're like, what part of East are you in? That's where all the artsy people are, and I am not in East. I can tell you that. But,
Well, you can pretty much go anywhere in Nashville, find a studio or something
yeah,
within
it's
40, 50 miles of the city.
It's crazy. That's kind of why we moved is being in Dallas. I have so many great friends there and people that I grew up with. I have people in Dallas that I've known since I was like 11 or 12 years old. But it was getting difficult to just, those people had their own trajectory and they had their own like 9 to 5s and stuff. And I have my own career with people that I'm touring with. And it's getting difficult to like relate and see these people, because I'd get home from a 2-month tour and I'd want to hang out on a Tuesday night. Well, the people that are working 9 to 5 jobs, they don't necessarily want to do that. So it was kind of getting a little lonely, and it's not their fault or it's not anyone's fault. So it's really nice being here because everybody, as you said, it's the mecca for touring and studios. Everywhere you go, there's somebody that's in music. And I love that. I mean, it's so saturated. It feels a little bit like I'm in college again. Maybe it's like unrealistic, but
Yeah. Do they? I'm trying to think of what that place is. It called Soundcheck or something like that? The big.
yeah,
It's like a huge place
yes.
with it has multiple big rooms and tours go there and practice, or you do showcases there or whatever. That's still there,
Yeah.
and that.
Soundcheck is a really big. It's like a warehouse facility
Yeah.
with a bunch of studios,
Yep.
and they've got a couple different room sizes. They've got some like some where you can put a 40-foot stage in there, some where you can put like there's only like a 20-foot stage in there, and then there's some where you can do full production run throughs and
Right.
stuff like that. But that's actually, I believe that whole complex is moving now. There's this other really big facility in Pennsylvania, sort of famous, called Rocklititz, and I believe it's like under the Claire umbrella. And if you're on a stadium or arena-sized tour, it's pretty much one of the only places in the country that I know of that can house arena level or stadium level touring without just outright going and renting an arena for a few days.
Right.
So, anyways, they're building one of those in Nashville, and I believe all of Soundcheck is moving to that now. They're in the process
Gotcha.
of that. You can still rehearse there, but I think in the next like year, Soundcheck will be no more. Don't quote me on that though.
Nice. Awesome.
Yeah. Interesting.
So are you on touring right now with anyone?
No, I'm actually home. I'm in my bedroom right now. But I just
Figured
got
that
off the
much.
road with Colony House. We were
Colony House.
on a month and a half run, and on in the U.S. sort of a B market run, part one of a tour, and then I leave on Saturday to go to Europe with them for 2 weeks for supporting a band called Flip Turn. And yeah, before Colony House, I did some touring this year with Matt Kearney. I did some touring with Little Image, also in Europe. Did some touring with Dirty Dancing on tour, which was like movie-oki. It was really
Wow.
cool. It was like they play. I saw. By the way, if you ever need a guy for like Dirty Dancing trivia, consider me, because I've seen that movie
bet.
45 times now or something like that. But they play the movie band with a company underneath it, which is really cool. But yeah, and then a lot of like random one-off studio things or fly-in dates where I'll just come in and mix a conference or something like that. It's kind of what I've been up to.
Right. So that's so cool that you're kind of, you're dabbling in both the live audio production and studio. Which one did you cut your teeth on? Was it live, kind of growing up in church? A little bit.
It's tough. I mean, every time I tell the story, and it definitely is more centered towards live, but all through high school, I was recording demos for my band and, other bands that were in high school. And that really that is studio work, and I learned how to work a DAW in that situation. I learned how to record. I learned how to sort of mix and that. And from that point forward, I was always doing some sort of studio work. So I didn't really start saying, hey, I want to be a studio mixer, and I would consider myself a studio mixer until maybe 2020 or so. And as anybody that does that would knows, it takes years and years to be on, be anyone notable in that. And it takes years and years to develop your ear in that. So I'm still very much like, the C-list, D-list dude that just kind of randomly does some projects here and there. But I mix about 50 songs a year, mainly for just some I do a lot of live post mix downs and just some random singles from Instagram reach outs, cold reach outs, and things like that. Mm-hmm. Nothing super big, not a lot. I've only done like a few bits of label work, but hopefully in like 2 or 3 years, that's more of what I'm doing.
But that kind awesome. Of level, I think, is pretty needed. I was going to say that level that you just said you're like a C list or a D list or whatever, but that level is a needed place for a lot of bands and artists that want like a level up from what they're just doing at their house. If they want someone that's been in the game for a bit to give them a better mix than what they can do, then they can't drop tons of money and go to some A or B list guy, in Nashville or Seattle or whatever. So I think that's cool. Sure. I mean, that's a really needed thing. And I was going to say, you probably get a bunch of people from social media and stuff hitting you up, I bet, for mixes and that sort of thing.
Yeah, that's definitely sort of a new development in the last year. I mean, I've been trying to do the studio thing for years, but it definitely, I get a lot of cold reach outs through my website that they've found through socials and all that. Yeah. That the amount of conversion that actually leads to is probably like 10%, but a lot of inquiries, which is awesome. And it has led to some work, which is really cool. I would say I get more random consultation gigs, especially in the church scene, where people are just looking to, get some training on Allen and Heath or like, up the quality of their mix, or just get some outside set of ears. It might be great already. They just want someone else to listen to it, whatever. I've gotten more of that through the social media thing in the last year than I could ever have. I'm really blessed and fortunate because I truly feel like it has put me in has leveraged me as an engineer than anything could have. I feel like I'm a little bit ahead in my career than I should be because, I'm getting these calls for these arena things and flying in and mixing these arena conferences. And I come home and do a club tour in like 1,500 cap rooms, Right. And so it's really strange, but I'm not going to complain. I'm very happy. And I do feel confident in what I know. And I do feel like people call me because they know what I do and they like my mix. So I hope that it continues to happen.
The ear never lies, brother. You got the ear, so people need it.
Thanks. I hope so.
Right.
Especially, I hope we're not going to be replaced by AI. It's like,
well, hey, I mean, what do you think?
Some of those mixes.
Is it happening, or is it? How does that translate? I mean, do you use any of those AI wave plugins and stuff?
I do. I'm a pretty big proponent of it. If you see my my Instagram, I think if anything, it's a speed thing. If everybody's is mixing these days, and if it's super competitive, at a certain point it becomes a speed thing. Mm-hmm. Especially whenever you're like me and you're on the road and you're trying to juggle being on the road and mixing at the same time, right? And so, anything I can do to speed up the workflow, I'm all about. So I have been experimenting with it, and I definitely like trying to be ahead of the curve and trying to see what's coming. There are some things that I've tried that I really enjoyed in the moment that are AI based. And I'm like, this is cool. This is really cool. And then the more and more I used it, I'm like, I don't know, man. I still feel like I'm going back and undoing things that it did. Mm-hmm. But there are some things that I use that I just truly am like, I don't think there's anything that I could do that this is doing, so in very broad scope terms. Now, will it replace me altogether? I don't know. I do think there's always going to be a need for some sort of facilitator and some sort of person in between the software and the art. And that's the one great thing when you listen to other podcasts and people that are in the other creative spaces. That's the thing that they'll tell you is with these LLMs like ChatGPT and Gemini, they're amazing. They're amazing at just creating these long-winded responses that just have a lot of things. They're not great at creating new things. They're not great at being a creative, and that's what humans are good at,
Right.
And maybe there's something special about that inconsistency element of the human ear of like it's a little bit different every night because we have that emotion to feel what the crowd's feeling, and like maybe the kick should be a little bit louder today instead of the formulaic approach of, well, this kick needs to be precisely 2 dB because of the record.
Right.
Yeah,
but I don't know. I'm curious what you guys think on that.
Especially you touring, like, because
sure.
I mean, I toured for many, many years. Like Garrett said, you're in a different room every night. If you're on a bigger tour or something and they're bringing in full production, then at least you have a little bit of continuity, like with your PA and that kind of stuff. But most of the time you're hitting clubs and stuff, you're using the you're using the PA that's there. A lot of times you're using the console. Sometimes you bring one in, but you're going to different rooms every single night, different sizes. Like you said, the shows are different. Some nights will be crazy and everyone's into it. Some nights not. And so maybe you mix a little different because of it. So the human aspect for that, I think, is super important. AI is not can't be in the room and judge all of those different metrics, every single night on a tour. Maybe, like you said, it's a speed thing and it can get you a basic setup quickly. But if you're not the headliner, you're not getting much of a sound check anyway. I mean, it's like you got to jump in there and you get a quick line check and you go. So in that situation, I'd much rather a human that knows the music, that's been around the band, that's mixed a lot already, and kind of has the feel for it, can just make the show happen. That's my 2 cents, I guess.
Right.
Yeah.
I can't imagine AI completely taking it over. I mean, what? So the fear would be that there's this magical black box that you plug in, and all your mics and everything go to it, all your sources, and you click a button, and all of a sudden this magical mix comes out. Well, before we get there, it's going to be per channel like we have now, and just trying to like put in like, oh, this is a kick drum, and it tries to, scoop the mids and make it sound okay. But there's so many other variables. Every other different size rooms, different sources, the band playing differently. You probably also get band input. I'm sure the guys step out every once in a while and take a listen and be like, hey, dude, yeah, we need more of this, more of that. Well, if you have some engineer back there relying on AI to make things sound good, and you have the band come and say, hey, we want it to sound like this, well, good luck trying to tell the AI that on these plugins. So I don't know. It's a human ear. We're doing this for the human ear at the end of the day.
Yeah. I stand to be proven wrong. I mean, it's we could look at this conversation in 20 years and be like, wow, we were so dead wrong. I cannot believe that we were thinking that. But it is hard to imagine a world. I mean, the one thing that stands true is at least now, the AI cannot hang a PA, and AI cannot put the mics out, and AI cannot adjust, plug the XLR in. So that's one thing that's constant. So. But yeah, I mean, the way that I use it is very much the Waves AQ is the big one right now that presents a theoretical, this is what it should sound like. And what's interesting about I am curious of where it comes up with these ideas of what it should sound like, at least on the ones that are non-trained. And I'll explain that in a second. Because like what exactly is a kick drum supposed to sound like? It's like, I know everyone has this idea of this big giant punch with lots of low end. That's not always the case. If you go watch a lot of concerts, there's music is not a box. There's many different, the needles all over the place. And sometimes, it's like with Matt Kearney, for instance, I don't want that huge in your face smacking you every second kick drum that I want with Colony House. I want more of like a pillowy, vibey, I'm feeling it like I'm 2 feet away from it kind of thing. And I don't know if AI has the context of that. I think the one thing that I've learned with my experience of using AI constantly is that it is only as smart as the context that you feed it, right? And we as humans have a lifetime of context. I'm 29, so I have 29 years of context to make a decision in that moment this is what that kick is going to sound like in that room, versus a plugin has the 30 seconds that I gave it to train it and say, okay, this is what it's going to sound like. So how can it possibly know that that's the right decision? But I stand to be corrected. Who knows?
No, I think you're on it, man. And what does a kick drum sound like? Because you go listen on a stage to a kick drum, you're like, oh, listen to that. You hear a little bit of rattling, you hear this or that, you hear the rest of the kit kind of moving with it, and then you put that through, Beta 901 or whatever you got on your kit, and you're making that. It's almost like you're using the PA as part of that drum, because obviously a kick does not move that much air as a subwoofer does. So we're actually kind of recreating the sound of a kick drum and especially in church world. I mean, this is kind of what I grew up in, is like, you only got one rehearsal to try and make something sound good. And these guys have never played the song before, and we've never heard it through the PA and all this stuff. And you're cranking and cutting just to make it sound somewhat like the track. And so that kick it doesn't necessarily sound like what it sounds like on stage. I would love it to. I would love it to sound amazing and be perfectly tuned and all the instruments to sound ready to go. But in the back, you're using what you got, and you're trying to polish the turd that it is. And you're cutting and swapping, and you got compressors everywhere just trying to make it sound punchy. So what does that? Is that what the AI understands? Does the AI understand after all that stuff, that's what a kick sounds like? Or does it know what the human ear hears on stage? That's the difference that it'll never know. I guess if you put an analyzer mic, would an AI be able to, be an RTA and kind of be like, oh, I'm listening to the room and it doesn't sound like you have enough 400 hertz or whatever. I don't know.
Yeah. It's too narrow windowed right now. I think when we're using it in such small slivers, it's like the biggest. I mean, one of the greatest tips that I give these engineers when I go to do these consultations is stop listening to stuff in solo and listening to the whole mix. Well, that's exactly what the Waves AQ is doing. It's listening to it in solo. It's like, how can you make decisions based on the context of the whole mix if you're just listening to it's like, maybe the kick drum sounds amazing on its own, but how does that work against the rest of the kit? Is the floor tom playing with the kick to where you can hear the fundamental of the floor and it not mask the kick drum? I cannot tell you how many times I've gone to churches specifically where either A, there's no fundamental of the floor tom, or B, the kick and the floor tom are just in the same spot, and it's just like, there's no impact. But that's a whole other conversation.
Absolutely.
So, how often are you? So you're touring a lot, obviously. How often are you working with churches? So we work with that's primarily what we do. We build and design big AV systems for churches. We do some smaller churches too, but we work with a lot of what people call mega churches these days. So big rooms, big PAs, audio control rooms, all this kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So we're constantly dealing with working with a church. We're church guys. We go to church as part of our lives. And we were on staff at a church for years as well, before we started the company, like 15 years ago. But if you're working with churches, then you know kind of what goes into that. A lot of times maybe they have, if they're lucky, they at least have one guy on staff that kind of knows production, that can rally the troops and make it happen. But a lot of times we're working with volunteers constantly, setting up systems to where volunteers can run these things. Do you get involved? Is that another thing that you're doing when you say you're working with the church as well? Are you going to help kind of consult the churches or educate them and their teams for production?
Yeah, it's very specialized. I really tell people up front, I'm not an integrator. I'm not you guys. I am very much hey, I can come in, I can listen to your room, and I can tell you the way that I would think about it if I were being hired to come mix this room. That is the extent of where my knowledge stops. Now I have a lot of experience in other things, but I'm not there to do that, and not because I would not do a great job. So typically when I'm brought in, usually the way that I like to run it is I'm brought in on a Sunday or a Saturday, the night before. I'll come watch a service and I'll take some notes. And a lot of times it always sounds great. It's always in a great starting spot. And it's not in shambles or anything like that. And I would hope that if they're bringing someone like me in, they're not, it's not like we need to start over kind of thing. It's just like well, what if we tried this sort of thing? And I take some notes. And then what I do is I spend the afternoon just kind of like looking through things and on my own solo, just like, what does the PA sound like now? Let me dive in. Let me look at the file. And then I spend usually Monday or the Monday evening working with either, a production representative or like the full-time front of house audio person. Usually a lot of these churches that are bringing me in have some sort of full-time audio person. And I'll work with them one-on-one and I'll say, hey, this is exactly what I was thinking. This is what I did last night. This is how it translates. Or work with me as I work on the mix, and let me just talk you through that thought process as I do it. Because I think, for me, I think that's the most valuable thing, is like just education by just talking through what I'm thinking. I don't know, and then just letting them ask questions as you go. And there's a lot of aha moments of like, whoa, what did you do? So you didn't, you removed all of those 8 plugins on the snare. Why? Oh, because it sounds good if you listen to the phase relationship between the snare top and bottom, and just, there's a lot of little moments like that. So, and also just showing them how, if the PA sounds great in the room, it just, a lot of that work is so much easier, I think that's where my experience is unique, and why it helps to bring someone like me in is because I am in this unique position where I have to make one mix sound good in hundreds of rooms versus making one mix sound good in one room. And so I have this weird tool of like, okay, I know how to make the mix sound good. Now how do I make it sound good in all these rooms? And that's putting those two together is sometimes is a tricky thing. So yeah, that's usually what it is. And then we'll go through and I'll like do a mock mix with them. I'll either mix it in virtual, do like a whole full 30-minute service with, the executive pastor in the room, and say, okay, this is where we were, and show them the preview. And then I show them, this is where we're at now. And then I'll mix the whole thing, get some more feedback, or then be like, I love this, or I hate this, or whatever. But most of the time they're pretty happy with where we end up with.
When you're going between churches,
But yeah, I do that once a quarter.
Once a quarter. When you're doing that, have you been seeing a common thread? Do you see common mistakes that these churches are doing? Is it always like your bottom snare is not, the phase isn't changed or something like that? I mean, are you seeing is there any tips that we can tell all the churchgoers? Go to your console right now and take a look at this thing.
I think that the age-old adage is start at the source, man. I mean, it's like, if your band isn't good, it's never going to be amazing, and that's fine. I think that's the other thing too, is like, does it need to be? Let me back up for a second. The difference between a 80% mix and 100% mix is lost on 98% of people, and I think that it's so funny to me that churches get so caught up on that last 20%. You go to some places and they're spending thousands of dollars to bring someone in to like do these consultations and all that stuff like that. When in reality, that 20%, that 80% mix was fine. It sounded fine. And this gets more into the philosophy side of things and like, what is spiritual, whatever. I a lot of times I tell people, like, you're probably fine with where you're at, and you should know that I can come in and I can make it sound amazing or slightly more amazing or whatever, but it's going to be lost on your congregation. In my opinion. Right, all that to say, the common theme that I see, besides people caring a little bit too much about that last 20% or whatever it is, man, I really see people just not changing drum heads ever. That's crazy to me, how often I go to a church and they have a snare with a drum head from 1955. It's like, I didn't even know they made that snare in 1955. It's like, it's caved in and it's lost all of its juice. It's like, man, on the road, we change our drum heads every 3 shows, and I'm not saying that you're not, obviously in a church service, you're not playing the snare drum, beating the heck out of it for 90 minutes a time, but I would say at least every 3 months or something like that, not every 3 years. Yeah,
Agreed. Yeah.
I would say start there. I would say it is pretty shocking the difference in what drums sound like with a cage and without a cage. I would say there's a conversation that needs to happen. If you're struggling with volume and you need to get your room at an incredibly low mix volume, you've got to have drum cage. I mean, and it's got to be a shell, like a proper fishbowl, and that sucks because the caveat of that and the flip side of that is the drum tones really take a hit. It is crazy to me the difference between drums that are in open air and drums that are in a fishbowl. It's like it just pushes all the cymbal back into all the shell mics, and I don't ever have those on the road, and it is wild to me hearing the difference. And I get a little bit of a struggle trying to get drums in fishbowls to sound kind of like what I have on the road sometimes. But that's the biggest thing I see is just not looking at the source.
Yeah, it's there's a saying that your band's only as good as your drummer. In a way, your mix is only as good as your drum mix. And I mean, to have that powerful kick, snare, and not the cymbals just burning out your ear balls is a big deal. You've hit a couple. We have clients that they're a brand new church starting up, and they're like, yeah, we want to get a cool acoustic kit, and they're mobile. And it's like, dude, I don't know if I would do that. Like, you don't even have an engineer yet, bro. And you're going to be setting up a kit every Sunday morning. You're going to be setting up all the mics. Good luck, right? So, I mean, and nowadays, the V drums, we talk about it this once every once in a while on the show here, but V drums nowadays, like those, they don't sound that bad. And especially for like setup and quick setup, quick teardown, and not to have like an engineer. And it's like, yeah, the kick right through signal, barely any EQ sounds pretty good. I mean, that's worth its weight in gold.
Dude, we've kind of
so many people
circle.
deal with this issue.
It's like we've gone. I remember when I first started doing stuff in like 2010s, 2009 ish, and it felt like E-drums were kind of on their way out, and people were starting to bring in real kits and all this stuff because E-drums didn't sound super good. Now E-drums look really good and they sound really good, but also people are like everyone's using real kits. So now people are like, well, let me use a sample with my real kit. Like, just skip the step, just get the E kit.
Right.
It's like, who cares if it doesn't say DW on the front or whatever.
Yeah, the conversation of acoustic versus electric drums for us is never ending because we work with a lot of church plants and people that are maybe doing, like Garrett said, a mobile church. It's still a conversation that happens. It's happened since we started the company. It's been 15 years of it. And yeah, like you said, they definitely sound way better now. And they look like you can get one that looks like a real kit even, if that's your thing. So we're always on the side of what makes the mix sound better in the room. Like, we always go that way. And we have to have some kind of conversation sometimes if egos get in the way of a drummer or whoever, which most musicians have a bit of an ego. I do too, so whatever. But in a church setting, I think specifically, it's more about the vision of the house, like and making the worship sound the best that it can. And in scenarios, going electric drums, man, is the way to do it. And you swallow that pill. Especially if you're mobile, by the way.
Yeah.
And and you go that route for the sound, for the sake of the sound,
There is a new enclosure that I found recently that I'll show you guys here. We bought one for a client recently. I can't wait to hear it. So it's a Goplin. Talked to the owner the other day.
Goplin, yeah.
Goplin.
How to pronounce
it? Let me show it. Y'all see this? Okay. So it looks like the classic, plexiglass enclosure, but he's at least changed the shape of it to be a trapezoidal shape. So it's not as parabolic in the front, so you don't have as much just crazy parabolic phasing back to you. So at least it has three flat sides. And then I guess the back itself is actually not even flat itself. So like the door on the back isn't flat. It's actually angled. So yeah, this is the full isolation, I guess, G4 with the trapezoidal shape. So yeah, we'll see if that sounds any better. It's definitely going to sound different, but in anything under like 500 seat room, it's really tough to have an acoustic kit. I mean, you want the sound of that snare getting hit. You want the tone from those drums, and to get that with shy baffles or like some other type of enclosure, an open top or something, is it's tough, man. That stuff goes everywhere, and you have no control.
Yeah, specifically in churches, because you're not cranking the mix. You're not just pounding the congregation, with crazy loud mix. So that's the debacle I think that happens with it.
Right.
I think the best enclosure situation I've seen is I was at a church called The Branch in Dallas for a year or two, and they pretty much built a studio enclosure into the wall. There was like a closet, and then they put up just a single thing of plexiglass so you could see them, but they treated it and everything, and so it just sounded like a studio drum booth. It was awesome. I mean, it was so good. I wish I was a better mixer then, because I could have probably made it work a lot better than it did, but even then it sounded awesome.
Yeah, we've done that on a couple projects where we actually built in a drum room on stage. They're like, we don't want the drums out here. We're like, great, okay, we'll build a purpose-built room, treat it like you said, have all the I/O ready for it, like a nice little room, lighting. It works out well. So, what I want to get some more gear stuff, dude. I want to nerd out with you a little bit. I don't get to nerd out enough. So, what's on your rider, dude? What do you like to mix on? What's what PA, what console? Like, what's your favorite stuff?
And it's always changing. I'll take whatever you got. I mean, I think I'm probably unique in that I don't really ask for one particular console on every single show. And I think because of that, I'm pretty fast in most desks, and it doesn't, pigeonhole me into one ecosystem. So, but I think out of all of them, I mean, I'm definitely a Digico guy. I definitely prefer Digico for sure. But when it comes to, if put anything in front of me, the only thing I haven't really toured on extensively is the Rivage stuff yet, and I really want to. Mm-hmm. And the SSL stuff I haven't toured on yet. So I would love to, when you ask me like what's your favorite? Well, my favorite is the stuff that I don't know, because I love learning new things, and so I want to try. I really want to learn some new desks. So next time I have a choice in the matter, I'll do that. A lot of times, especially in the touring world, you're kind of stuck with whatever. These days every band owns their own rig, or they have a long-term lease on a rig, and so you just end up with some sort of whatever they have. I mean, Colony House has owned their D-Live rig for 6 years now, which you guys as integrators will appreciate this because you know the pricing, but we bought a C1500 and a CDM48 for $13,000, which is insane now. That's like, that's like 25 now or something like that. It's crazy how much it's changed. But
we just had this conversation because we deal with pricing constantly on all the projects. And so, same exact consoles. Nothing's changed. Same exact hardware, everything. But almost twice the price just from 5 years ago. Pretty nuts.
So when you tour, do you have your own Wave sound grid that you bring along with you then? Because you have all your plugins, or is that part of the rider, part of the tour?
The tour owns, typically I spec it out. I'm pretty minimal in what I own these days. I have like a measurement mic I own a computer with some plugins, but usually the vendor provides whatever it is that we need. In Colony House's case, they own a computer that has two Wave servers and the SoundGrid host on there as well. So, and they have their own Super Rack license. They don't have their own Waves plugins, but I just split my licenses out since I've been with them for pretty much every show for the last 6 years. So I don't have to worry about, constantly moving between them. But yeah, for other people, I typically just spec out what I need.
How about PAs, man? What kind of speakers do you like?
It's hard, definitely D&B and definitely L acoustics. Definitely the JBL VTX stuff is quite good these days. It's hard to say. I mean, I don't get to often choose the PA if ever, but I feel like Colony House works really, really well on D&B for some reason. I don't know why. But just something about the tonality works good. The voicing works really well with them. So I'm more partial to that. love Zach Brady as well. I mean, he's just a great guy, and has always been really kind and easy to, anytime I have a question or something, he's great. I do think too what they're doing with array processing and array calc and stuff like that is pretty serious. I know that L Acoustics has some stuff that's with like P1 and or whatever it is, M1 or whatever, that's quite good as well. But I do think that between those two, they're industry leaders and standouts. I mean, the technology anywhere else is, I don't think, anywhere close to what they're doing. But I could be wrong. I'm not as great of an SE.
Yeah, they're all kind of doing the same thing, honestly. They're all got some sort of soundscape thing going, Elisa, and then the array pre-calculations and all that stuff. So yeah, it's a good time.
Yeah.
It's a good time for speakers. They all sound amazing.
Yeah, definitely. There's no excuse anymore.
Right. So do y'all tour with do you have does Colony House have a PA that they tour with, or is it each venue?
It's we're at the luck of the draw and with whatever the venue has, unless we're doing these like college one-offs or something like that. But yeah, typically it's whatever they have. And I've mixed on pretty much every single PA that you can imagine in the last 6 years. I mean, just anything, which is awesome because I have a lot of opinions and I have a lot of ideas of what does work and doesn't work, or you mix on certain box a certain number of times and you're like, okay, I know what I'm going to be experiencing in this room or whatever. But it's funny, you think that every box is made the same, but that is it's not the case. I mean, it's just, there is truly a difference between the low end and the high end of what those speakers have to offer. So
right.
Won't name it.
So do you get much time at these venues? I mean, do they typically have a system tech, or are you going in there and listening, saying like, what's going on over here? These delays are off. And I mean, how much time do you kind of get to set up before you start, getting signal through the console?
We built a lot of time when we're headlining to do, a good amount of line check and sound check and stuff like that. So pretty often I have a lot of time. So if I really need to, I can dive in. On the Dirty Dancing tour, I carried, I think, 2 wireless reference mics and a smart rig and all that, and then a Lake with like 8 outs. And so I was giving them sometimes 8 drive lines because we were in theaters with like a center array, and we had like underbouks, we had front fills, we had left, right, and I would drive all that and do all the tuning. And on that tour, it was pretty beneficial because it was all over the place. I mean, there were some rooms where I was doing some crazy stuff to get it to be consistent, and it was really important on that because it's speech, right? It's like it's a movie, and so the intelligibility is incredibly important to be consistent across the room, as you know. And so so I often do a good bit of time. Now I'll say the more and more I tour, the more and more I have kind of weaned off smart and tried to lean more back into using my ears. Sort of started only ears, took the smart training, feel really great about using smart. I'm fast in there. I know how to use all the tools for the most part, outside of some of the more niche like acoustic response stuff. And now that I feel confident in that, I'm leaning back into using my ears because I've like quantified my ear training with data. And so now it's just like, okay, how fast can I do this? And a lot of times it's just walk in the room. And now that I've been listening to the same songs on hundreds of PAs a year for, at this point I've been touring since 2016, I guess. It's starting to get pretty easy to listen to a song and be like, okay, I think this is the problem. This is the problem. Walk up to the front. I think the front field needs to be about 3 dB louder. Need to tone it this way. If I feel like if I have the time and I feel like I'm guessing a little bit, I'll definitely cross-check my work. I'll go backwards and I'll throw the measurement mic around and just see kind of like how I did with my ear tuning. But yeah, most of the time it's by ear.
Yeah, there's nothing worse than
no
someone
SE
saying,
though. Yeah, we don't have an SE.
Oh, really? Yeah, so just you're on your own doing it, making it happen. Yeah. There's nothing worse than someone showing you an EQ curve or a heat map and saying the room sounds great. I mean, that's what a robot would say. We got to use our ears. I'm constantly preaching this, even to my guys, where we use smart and we're looking at the room and stuff. I'm like, dude, you got to walk around and use your ear, man, because none of these people walking into that auditorium have smart. They have a phone thing. I'll tell them that it's too loud, but other than that, it's human ears that you're playing to.
Yeah, It's I think it's an amazing tool, and I do think it's incredibly important to know how to use, because it's like putting what you're hearing in an actual measurable data point, and that's great. And so if I'm like, I think that the front fields have this crazy dip, whatever, throw a mic out there and then show the house person, hey, I think your front feels something's weird here, or whatever. Or like when it comes to phase relationship, that you can guess on that a little bit and say, I think something's out of phase here. But that smart's another great thing for that. I said there's no SC, but there is a house person typically. So I have on a couple occasions worked with a house engineer to say, hey, what if we tried, just arcing the subs a little bit more? It feels like when I walk to the sides, I don't get anything. Or what's the relationship between the left and that flown sub behind there? Can I take some measurements of that really quick, and things like that? Because you'd be surprised. I mean, it's sometimes it's amazing, and sometimes it sounds really good and really tight. And there's sometimes where people are just schlepping boxes up there and just calling it a day. And that's as good as DMB and as good as L-Acoustics is, it's only as good as the deployment. And yeah, I've seen some really theoretically amazing sounding DMB rigs sound pretty bad, and I've seen some really theoretically bad sounding, like old 20-year-old EAW, quote unquote, like bad, you know what I mean? Just stuff that shouldn't sound good sound far better than DMB because it was well kept up with, deployed right, and tuned well, So right. It can be both ends.
Yep. That's where we come in, saving the world one room at a time, designing accurate, systems for these rooms. That's our part to play. So, hey, we want to get into a little bit. Want to hear a little bit about Truck Packer. How'd you get into it? I mean, obviously you're on tour, so you saw a problem, you saw a need, and you wanted to find a solution. But it's super interesting, dude. Did you work on? Did you do the software yourself? How did this all happen?
Yeah, Truck Packer is myself and my partner David Woodward, he's on the tech side, and then I do all the the customer facing side and the boring stuff. So Truck Packer started in maybe really two or 3 years ago, whenever we were loading a Colony House tour out, and we had more cases than the bus trailer could fit. And we knew this just looking at the pile of cases and looking at the trailer, and I was like, man, this is insane. How are we going to fit this in there? And we did the crazy classic draw out the pack on the floor, try to get it in there, and we ended up having to cut some cases at the rehearsal space, and it just became this logistics nightmare. After that tour, I started using SketchUp and stuff like that to pre-plan these loads. But if you've used SketchUp, if you use AutoCAD, you know that it's this incredible pain of drawing out a rectangle, extruding the rectangle. And you're probably thinking like, okay, well, if you're in a semi, it doesn't really matter. You don't really care about the 3D space. You only really care about 2D space. In a bus trailer in a smaller space, you do care about the 3D space. Every single inch where the wheel wells are placed, all that really matters. So that's why I was using a 3D designer. All of this designing and stuff like that, it just took forever, And so at a certain point, David and I, who went to college together, I said, man, dude, this is insane. There's got to be a way to make this easier. There's got to be a way to make this more user-friendly so that people that aren't as, bored as me or have this kind of time could do these sort of pre-planning and things like that. And what if there was some sort of auto pack situation to where you could run an algorithm and it just present a theoretical pack? And I was lucky enough that he's like, dude, I think that's a great idea. I definitely think it's possible. We built an MVP and probably by November of last year, did some beta testing, showed it to some more people, got some more feedback. We launched in May of this year. And yeah, we've just been iterating the product and trying to refine it. I think our target customer is probably people like Claire or Spectrum, people that are responsible for pushing, 5 to 10 trucks out a week, or event, AV rental houses that have a lot of trucks and don't necessarily know a great game plan for the pull sheet versus what's available. So would love to develop out more a suite of tools that works for that. But currently 3D web-based designer for taking all your cases in, getting a truck pack within 10 seconds. I mean, if you have a CSV of all your cases, you can get a truck pack pretty much instantly. It's pretty cool. And then you can tweak from there with controls that are so easy that my grandma could probably build us a truck pack. It's awesome.
Cut to a clip. I was joking.
There you go.
Grandma's not on the show.
I mean, mobile church too. Like we're the church guys, so these mobile setups are getting crazier and crazier. Like some of these churches are setting up. I mean, it's full. It looks like a full blown tour, every Sunday. So, but the issue a lot of them have is they have very limited space, and they either have some trailers that maybe like the school lets them park there, or they have to move them around and drive them around or whatever. Or I was going to ask you, is it only like trailers and stuff that you can plop into your system to kind of pack into, or could you just put in a different dimension of, say, like a room or something? A lot of our clients will have, like, the school will say, well, you can use this room, and if we were able to like grab a room size or whatever and start plopping in a bunch of cases to make a map of something, I mean, for sure the trailer thing is like a win, I think, in our world, because it is a big issue with them trying to figure out what they can fit in. The kids' classrooms will have all these different kind of cases and check-in cases and coffee cases and all kinds of cases you're not even thinking about with production, but they take up so much room and they only have so much space in these trailers. Mapping it out, like you said, we use SketchUp or whatever and do the exact thing you're talking about, draw rectangles and do the whole thing to try to figure it out. But that's the first thing I thought of, because it's our world. When I looked on your site this morning, and I was like, dang, the mobile church world, man, would love that for sure.
Yeah, we have a few of our customers are in that world. I believe Belonging Co. in Franklin uses us. I think there's another one called City Church that uses us, and a few others. And if you haven't used their software, to give you some of the rundown, it's called Truck Packer, but it's really anything packer. I mean, there's on the bottom right, there's a little window where you can change the dimensions of the container. So your truck can be the size of a warehouse if you want. I was talking to Kendall over at Spectrum the other day, and he was using Truck Packer to figure out how many stacks of KSL they can fit in their warehouse, which is insane. That's insane that they have that many boxes. But yeah, currently you can only do one truck at a time, but it's like, that's in a library. So you can go into that pack, organize your pack, go back out and go to a different pack, whatever, you can duplicate that. What a lot of users do is they go, if you have a trailer with wheel wells, currently we don't natively support wheel wells, but what you can do, you can create a case that represents that, put that in place, and then you can actually, name that like 13-foot trailer, and you can duplicate that and create a pack from that every time. But yeah, you can use it for closets. You can use it for shipping containers, anything you want that you can imagine. We've got you covered for sure.
Sweet.
Yeah, we got to look into that. We're actually we're becoming ARC, Association of Related Churches. We're becoming their preferred AVL dudes.
Congrats.
And it's a lot of church launches, a lot of mobile churches. So we order trailers custom so that they're sized correctly for all our cases. We just started Crown cases for all these cases too. So I think this is a win. We got to take a look at this and see if it's going to work. I see it being super beneficial.
Yeah, sure. Appreciate you. Yeah, reach out. You have my email, man. We'll sort you out. I can show you a little more of the nitty gritty if you want. Appreciate you asking about it for sure. It's like, it's so funny. It's, audio is so much of my life, but this has turned into the other half of my life where I'm just sitting. I work 9 to 5 on studio mixes or advancing shows, and then my wife comes home. I hang out with her after work, and then she goes to bed, and then I get into truck packer mode from like 10 p.m. to 2 a.m. and just it's a lot, but it's awesome that it's turned into a part of my life. I'm happy with its success so far, and can't wait to see how it continues to grow.
Awesome, man. Well, appreciate the hustle, dude. It looks like a cool thing.
Thanks, man.
Bro, thank you so much for coming on the show, dude. I want to be respectful of your time. Awesome chatting with you. Awesome, hearing about all the things you're connected to. We will have all of your social stuff in the description of the video. or somewhere. Bennett, you figure it out, bro. This is the part that we're bad at, by the way, Michael. This whole thing. Like and subscribe, thumbs up, the whole deal. You'll be able to find Michael on socials. We'll put it up there. And if y'all need, someone to come in, hear your room, hire this dude. He's got a great ear, working with some good people, touring the world, see him in Europe, go hang out with them. Anything else for the world, Michael? You want to chat with?
Man, if you want your PA to actually work, hire these guys.
There we go.
Well,
I promise.
There we go. The power team. Hey, we do have a connection here. Next time you're in Florida, if you're going to be down for 12 conference again, like that's our church. 12 conference is our church. I know.
Yeah, I've done that.
So,
I've done the conference the last 2 years. Let's go.
So yeah, if you're back in town for that again, let's hook up. We'll go get some dinner or something. My brother runs that whole thing. He's the one that runs 12 conference. So,
wait, who's your brother?
Luke Graham.
Oh, that's Luke. Your brother's Luke Graham.
That's my brother. Yeah.
Well, that's so cool. You'll have to. I think he would remember me. You'll have to tell him that you were on a call with me.
I'm sure. Yeah.
I'm about to get on another call in about an hour with some of their youth band team. I'm mixing like an EP for them right now. We're doing some revisions on that. So,
sweet.
Small world.
Yeah.
Awesome, dude.
Yeah, man.
All right. Cool. Well, thank y'all, everyone, Crowncast people, whoever's watching. Love y'all. Leave some comments, like and subscribe, and keep making the world sound good. Peace.
All right. Yeah.